Hello, good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to attend our NEI hosted webinar this morning. For those of you that may not know me, my name is Angie Sorsky, and I am the Mapping and GIS Sales Manager for NEI. Also hosting today is Eric Bach, our Training and Support Manager, and Scott Alsbrook, the Sales Consultant for Arkansas. The goal of this webinar is to talk about NEI's Trimble Mapping and GIS portfolio, as well as introduce the newest addition to this portfolio, the Nomad 5. We're also going to talk about what's new on the data collection side, especially with Esri Collector. We will have a Q&A at the end, so please drop any questions into the sidebar. Just a note, we will be playing a video that is best. It's going to, even if you're dialed in through your phone, it's going to come through the audio is going to come through your computer speaker. So I just want to let you know that. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Scott to kick off the webinar.
Thanks, Angie, and good morning, everybody. As Angie mentioned, my name is Scott Alsbrook, and I'm the Mapping and GIS Sales Consultant for the state of Arkansas. And I'm excited to share with you some information today about the Trimble Mapping and GIS product portfolio through NEI. For those that may not be too familiar with NEI, our headquarters is in Lafayette, Louisiana, with offices and representatives across the Southeast. In addition to Mapping and GIS, NEI is a full-service Trimble solution provider with expertise in survey, marine, and vehicle tracking product lines. A point of pride among the mapping team is that for the 4th straight year, we have been named the Global Mapping and GIS Dealer of the Year. And that really wouldn't be possible without the team that supports our customers every step of the way. Eric Bach, our Training and Support Manager, and the support staff at NEI can provide customized training and services for customers to ensure success in all of your data collection efforts. You'll hear from Eric a little later in this webinar. Here you can see the hardware that makes up the Trimble Mapping and GIS product line. Undoubtedly, you've seen most of these units before, and we'll take a closer look at each one today. But we're excited to introduce today the Trimble Nomad 5. Before we get into talking about the equipment, let's take a quick poll question. We'll give everybody a second to get that filled in.
All right, I closed the poll, and it looks like a majority of the users on the call are using the Trimble Geo 7X. Excellent.
So it doesn't surprise me that many of you chose the Geo on that poll question. The Geo Explorer has been the backbone of so many data collection efforts over the years, and the current 7X continues on that legacy. The 7X offers the most powerful and versatile handheld GNSS platform to date. The Geo 7X is fully upgradable to include FlightWave to support the optional rangefinder module, Floodlight for increased productivity in the harshest GNSS environments, and H-Star for increased accuracy for those projects where reliability and repeatability are very essential. It continues to run the Windows mobile operating system, so the 7X is a nice fit for those users using data collection with Trimble TerraSync or TerraFlex. And those users would include professionals requiring high accuracy data and a very rugged handheld form factor. And while the all-in-one form factor does work well for some users, the trend in recent years has been towards standalone receivers that can integrate with various collection platforms. In the Trimble Mapping and GIS portfolio, there are 2 such receivers, first being the R1 GNSS receiver. The R1 is a small, lightweight GNSS option that can be paired with just about any mobile device running iOS, Android, Windows, or Windows Mobile for real-time sub-meter accuracy. This is accomplished using all available GNSS constellations and corrections from SBAS. For more consistency and improved accuracy, the R1 can receive corrections from the Trimble RTX system or a VRS network. So the R1 is an excellent option for users that don't necessarily have a need for super high accuracy data, but still need an easy and rugged solution. The R1 fills a need for smaller cities and utilities that might not have high density in their data sets, or for large deployments on a state or federal level that might have field personnel spread out over a large geographic area. And for projects where accuracy is of the utmost importance, we have the Trimble R2. The R2 is a truly scalable solution with accuracy options from sub-meter to centimeter. It really can support any GIS or survey workflow. The unit is a dual frequency GNSS receiver, providing even higher levels of productivity and accuracy. High accuracy data can be created using traditional post-processing techniques or by using various real-time correction sources, including Trimble RTX and RTK connections. The R2 is available in 3 accuracy configurations: sub-meter, sub-foot, and centimeter. You can see on this table the horizontal accuracies each one of these configurations will provide. And on that last slide, I mentioned that the R2 is scalable, and that is true now. A unit purchased with the sub-meter configuration can be upgraded to sub-foot or centimeter. And this goes for every R2 sold to date. So if a couple years ago you purchased a sub-foot R2, and now you have projects that require higher accuracy, your R2 can be upgraded to the centimeter configuration at any time. Because of the wide range of accuracy configurations, real-time correction options, and multiple supported workflows, the R2 has been put to use by every level of geospatial professional that we have the pleasure to work with. One university led a data collection effort in a remote part of Rwanda where little to no correction infrastructure existed, and they were able to achieve repeatable, high-accuracy data with the R2. We do have a link to that research project, and that'll go out in the follow-up email after the webinar. With its high accuracy options and compatibility with both GIS and survey workflows, the R2 is a true time and cost saver for offices working in both fields. And the R2's integration with cloud-based workflows make it ideal for organizations that need very high accurate data and whose field crews may be spread out over several states, like our large oil and gas customers. And while it may not be suited for all types of fieldwork conditions, we certainly realize the need for customers to get the most out of their mobile devices, such as smartphones and tablets. This is why the R1 and R2 were designed to work with apps that run on any device, especially if you need to bring your own device. But for users that need a dedicated field device, Trimble has some excellent options for data collectors. But first, why might you want a dedicated data collector over bringing your own device? Primarily, the reason would be durability. Most mobile devices are not designed for all-day use in the field, and temperature variations can have damaging impacts on performance and battery life. Additionally, not all organizations provide personnel smartphones or tablets, so employees utilizing personal devices isn't really ideal. For those users, we have some options. The 2 units you see here have been out for a while. On the left is the Trimble T10. This is a Windows device with an i7 processor and a large 10.1-inch daylight readable screen. This is an excellent device for users that have applications specifically designed to run on Windows. On the right is the TDC-100, and it is essentially an Android phone with the added capabilities of a true GNSS receiver that can get 1.5 meter accuracy using SBAS. Both of these data collectors work well with the R1 and R2, but today we're excited to introduce you to the new Trimble Nomad 5. And for that, we have a short video from Kelly Harkey, the Trimble Nomad 5 product manager. And as Angie mentioned at the beginning, if you're not using the computer audio and you're dialed in using your phone, you might want to switch over to the computer audio so that you can hear the audio that comes with the video. So here's a few takeaways from what Kelly had to say in that video. With the Empower module system, the new Nomad 5 provides an extremely powerful platform as a standalone device with barcode or RFID scanning or with sub-meter GNSS capabilities. The Nomad is also a perfect complement with the R2 receiver, adding durability that's pretty much unmatched by any other data collector. And the Android 8.1 operating system supports most industry-leading mapping and GIS data collection apps from Trimble and Esri. And that kind of brings us to the second part of today's webinar, focusing on data collection. I'll touch quickly on Trimble TerraFlex app, and then before turning it over to Eric for a little more in-depth look at Collector from Esri. But before we start talking software, let's do another quick poll question. We'll give everybody a couple more seconds to make their selection.
All right, I'll just share the results of the poll. It's kind of interesting. It's about a third of everyone on the call is using Esri Collector, the other one being TerraSync, which kind of goes hand in hand with the Geo users that we saw for the first poll question. So yeah, we'll definitely be sharing some Esri Collector information with our group.
Okay, excellent. So maybe we don't have a whole lot of TerraFlex users on the phone. So that's why I wanted to touch on what the Trimble TerraFlex app is, and because it's part of the Mapping and GIS product line from Trimble, and it's designed to work with all of the Trimble hardware. Simply put, TerraFlex is an easy-to-use field-to-finish solution. The mobile app will run on most platforms, as you can see here, and interactions between data collection in the field and the database back in the office is all managed with a simple 2-button toolbar right inside of ArcGIS Desktop. Just wanted to touch on it, but keep an eye out for future webinars taking a closer look at the Trimble TerraFlex workflow. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Eric Bach, our very own training and support manager, to give you an overview of Esri Collector and what's new with that app.
Thanks, Scott. All right, so today we're going to dive into Collector for GIS a little more than I usually do. So I'm going to start off by just kind of giving an overview of what Collector is. So it's a field mobile software that allows you to collect and update data in the field using map-driven forms. In order to use Collector, you need to have an ArcGIS organizational account. And there's a couple ways that you can do that. If you are an ArcGIS Online user, you can do this through having a license for Collector through the Field Worker, Creator, and the GIS Professional user type. And for our ArcGIS Enterprise users, mobile workers must be level 2 members. So they've recently kind of changed up some of the naming convention in there for that. And in order to actually use Collector on a device, your maps must have at least one editable layer and a base map. Collector can also integrate with some of the other Esri apps like Navigator, Workforce, Operations Dashboard, Survey 123, and we'll see what comes down the pipe here in the next month. I think there's some new stuff coming out as well. And at the bottom here, I have 2 versions of Collector. So we have the classic version that runs on iOS, Android, Windows 10. I'll go into detail about that in the next slide. And then we have the new Collector, formerly known as the Aurora project. So we have 2 versions that can be run. Currently, Collector, the new one, is only on iOS. So Collector's been out for several years now, and users wanted to kind of extend the functionality of GPS and want a little more with external GPS. So a lot of the focus on the latter year or so with classic version was incorporating high accuracy GIS or GNSS receivers along with that metadata. The new version of Collector, which only runs on iOS right now, you'll see that the Esri team went in and they completely rebuilt this software from the ground up. So it has everything's going to look new. It's going to run faster, better labeling, better symbology. We now have the option to collect heights in Collector using 3D data collection. It's going to be, for most receivers, it'll be height above ellipsoid, but you can post-process to get mean sea level elevations back in ArcGIS. A big change for us is the direct integration with Trimble receivers. So the Esri and Trimble teams got together, and we no longer need to run GNSS status like we did in the previous version of Collector, the classic version. So now you can just program your Trimble receiver right into Collector and only run that one software. So this version of Collector was released probably around early December, like the first week of December. Last week, Esri pushed out a new version, updated version, which added a few more enhancements with external receivers. They added this split/slide view, which is available only on certain devices, but you can run Collector on one side and maybe your Workforce app on the other, so you can see both screens at the same time. And they also released this little field user guide, and I'm going to bring this up so y'all can see this. It's kind of cool. So it's kind of like a cheat sheet for your office worker and your field worker, and then you can come in here and customize it for map name and for your organization name. But I thought it was kind of interesting that you put this together for us. So I'll be looking into this some more a little bit later, but I just found this today, actually a couple hours before we started, and I thought it'd be pretty cool that you can see this. You can actually download, print it out, throw it in the box that the equipment comes in. But it kind of is just a quick reference guide. All right. So now I think we have a poll question here. So we'll let Angie throw this poll question over. I'm curious to know if for those Collector users in the previous poll, if you're using classic versus the new version of Collector. So we'll give you all a few moments to go over that. All right, we'll give you a few more seconds to wrap it up.
All right, so the majority at 90% are using Collector Classic, but there are a few of you out there using the new Collector.
Okay. That's great. So we'll get into a little more. Some of those users may be using Android or Windows and may not be able to use the new version of Collector. But if you are using the new version of Collector or aren't using it and you're an iOS user, the next few screen slides will be good for you to see. So with that new engine that Esri built with this new version of Collector, you'll now see that they've added support for vector maps. This will allow for faster download, less room when you download the maps if you're working offline. They now have support for labeling. Symbology is better. If you're used to seeing the good symbology from maybe Pro and you push that out to Collector, those symbols will come across. The layout is better. So the tools will be more readily accessible. So the core tools like collect data, the camera, you'll be able to click and precisely drop a point in if you don't use GPS. Another thing they added was support for measurements. So you can change your units if you want to see meters or feet, if you want to see decimal degrees instead of degrees, minutes, seconds, or maybe you want to see a UTM coordinate system. You can change the coordinate systems around in the settings. So those are a few things they added to the tools there. The screen real estate to me is a really big enhancement. So you can see here on the screen I have it where when you first start to collect the point, it shows up to where you can see the map and just a little bit of portion of the form. And you can actually slide this form up and down. So if you want to look at the map, you can slide it up. If you want to slide the form back down, you can. So that's kind of why you see 3 screenshots here. And while we're here, I'm going to have this in another screen, but you can see that the photo is now at the top. You can update the GPS position. It's at the top. So everything's really, the main core tools that you use are right there in front of you. So along with the improved screen real estate, you'll notice the forms will act better and more intuitive. They've added support for arcade expressions, and this is for the labeling part of it. You know, we just talked about the camera, but we also, with the camera, there's a thing to attach maybe audio files and videos, so you can attach other things there. And as far as data enhancement entries, they now allow for barcode and QR code scanning, so you can scan that right into your form. This one's really cool. It's if you select the feature and you want to navigate to it. So I've got a little video here on in this screen, and I'm going to play it. I'm going to let it go through once and kind of walk through what they're doing, and then I'm going to play it again and show a couple other features in here that's pretty cool. So this is using the compass. So they're going to select the feature, and then there's 3 little dots at the bottom of the screen that brings up the option to select a compass. And then it gives them the bearing and distance to get to that feature. So this kind of just showing you as they're walking and navigating to the feature. What I'm going to do is I'm going to replay the video. And let's say you weren't close to the feature. You have the option to choose directions. And with these directions, you can choose Navigator app if you have Navigator installed from Esri. You could use Apple Maps if you're using an iOS device. You can use Google Maps, or you can use Waze. So if you're far away from the feature and need driving directions, you have the option to choose different ones. I thought that was pretty cool enhancement that they put in here. For those of y'all that need to work disconnected, so you may not have access to the internet at all times or Wi-Fi, they have enhanced the offline workflow. Now they have the vector map, so that'll improve on downloading file size if you had roads and other features as backgrounds. But they've also enhanced the management of it. So you could build, if you know where you're going to be working offline, you could build these map caches beforehand, share them out to your organization, and then they can be downloaded to the devices. And the interesting thing now is once these are downloaded to the devices, there's a sync option in the software now, in the Collector app, where in the field, if you do get connectivity and maybe someone made changes to the base map, you could sync those changes across. It's a really neat feature to have as well. So now I'm going to dig in a little bit more of the GPS portion, because that's the area that I really focus in. And with high accuracy GPS, our customers like to have metadata about that information. Then there's 3 ways really to get this metadata. If you build your Collector app inside of ArcGIS Online, there's a new Capture GPS Receiver checkbox that you can do while you're creating that layer. If you use Pro, there's some tools that you can use called Add GPS Metadata. And then for those of y'all that are still using ArcGIS Desktop, I'm one of those, or earlier versions of Pro, you can get some Python scripts from GitHub. I have some available if you still need them, because they may be hard to find. Or you could also just create them manually. They have I even have a screenshot that tells you what the field type needs to be and the field name, and it'll populate that data. And with that, there are certain metadata fields that can be collected. So I put these up in the slide here. And the big thing I want to point out here is the difference between averaging a point and if you just have it collect a single use point. More attributes or more GPS or GNSS metadata attributes will be populated if you're using the single point GPS versus the average. And then under general, it'll do like receiver name, lat long, height above ellipsoid, that kind of information. So these are all attributes that you can set up in your data set to record that GNSS metadata. And this is the cool part that I really like, that they work together with Trimble and built in this direct integration. So no longer, we don't need GNSS status app to configure the Trimble R1 or the R2 or whatever device you're running from Trimble. So I'm just going to kind of go through how this is done. So here's the new look of Collector. On the left side is now your profile. It used to be in classic version, it's on the right where you go into your settings. Now it's on the left. But we'll go in here and we choose provider, and then we would add a new location provider. So if I had Bluetooth on and I had an R1 or an R2 connected, I would be able to see it. In this case, I'm going to program up an R2, and we're going to, once it comes in here, sorry, I got to move something out the screen. You can program in your antenna height and then your real-time correction source. So the next screenshot here will show you the different types of correction sources. So direct IP would be, let's say, if you're in Alabama or Mississippi, there's a free network that you can use. So the DOT has a network where it's a direct access. You get an IP address and a port, and you can directly dial into those corrections. I'm going to go through Ntrip here. I'll talk about that in a minute. But we also have Trimble RTX corrections or the SBAS corrections. So those are all configured right inside of Esri Collector now. So in this case, since I work out of Louisiana, I use LSU's GulfNet or C4G network. So I have a username, IP address, a port, and then when I hit connect, it's going to ask me to enter in my mount point, which is the type of correction I want to get from them. So they offer all kinds of different corrections in different formats, CMR plus, RTCM, and then they have VRS corrections or PPP corrections. So you can choose a different type of correction from them. And then I have to enter in my username and password since this is a paid service. And then when I'm finished, I click on done. And at the bottom there, you can see that it has Ntrip, the server, the mount point information like that. So that's pretty much it. Once you set this provider up once, you're good to go. So I'll go through here and just show you how it's verified that it's actually working. So we make this the default location provider once it's set up. The next thing you would want to do is set up your profile. I'll do that in the next slide. And then once you open your map, you'll see that it's connecting to device. If it doesn't connect, you just click on the arrow. And then once you give it a second, it'll pop up your GPS that's connected and the current estimated accuracy that you're getting. And if you actually click on the accuracy, it'll give you the details about what you're connected to. So in this case, it's probably my front yard. It says RTK fixed, horizontal accuracy 0.3 inches, vertical 0.6 inches. And it just gives you a little bit about how many satellites, the current profile, etc. So with adding high accuracy or external GPS, you definitely need to set up a location profile and not use the default profile. So in this case, you would add in, so you just click on location profile, you'll click on add. Here, the first time I did this, I started scrolling through the list searching for my correction. In this case, LSU broadcast in the NAD 83 2011 datum. That's what their corrections are in. So I recommend you just type in 2011 and it'll pop to it instead of going through the long list. So you see here there's only 2 instead of probably 2,000. The next thing it's going to do is ask, what is the system of your map? So if you push out something out of ArcGIS Online and you use the Esri base maps, they use Web Mercator. And most people are probably using the Esri base maps, and they would use the Web Mercator profile here. And I just typed in web. Next thing you do is zoom into the location you're working. And then it asks you to pick a datum transformation. And the way Esri set this up, it's similar to how they do it in Desktop and Pro, where the one higher in the list is the one that they feel is the proper one to use. And in this case, this is the one I want to use. You give the profile a name. You make sure that you then set that as your default profile. And then you can, when you click on done, you can verify that it's the correct one. My corrections coming in from the VRS service NAD 83 2011. My map projection is Web Mercator, and then this transformation. So that's kind of the main things. Once you set those two up, basically you just have to, with iOS, you basically have to turn on your Bluetooth, and you have to actually connect to it each time. And then once you do that, you can open up Collector, and it automatically will remember the R2, in this case, is connected in the VRS. So what I'm going to talk about now is what's coming down the line. So what I just showed you was for iOS, so iPhone and iPad users. What's coming is support for Android and Windows 10. If you are an Android user, I recommend you can join the beta team. You know, they actually have it out, this version of Collector for beta. It doesn't support all external receivers right now, but it's going to, you know, they're working towards that. But you can definitely go and join the beta team. There'll be better support for elevations. So right now they store height above ellipsoid. Soon they'll have some kind of a geoid model support in order to get the mean sea level elevations. The forms are going to get smarter, more intuitive. They're going to add in snapping. Attributes, you'll be able to update multiple attributes. And then from Trimble, they're looking into having post-processing available for Collector. So like we used to have for ArcCAD, if you ran maybe ArcCAD with the Trimble extension back in the day, it was a GPS Correct or GPS Analyst. Nowadays, or if you're using Trimble TerraSync with Pathfinder Office, you can post-process. So Trimble is looking into a way to be able to post-process data for Collector. So those are all things that are coming down the line, and there's probably going to be some more added to this list. All right, so before I hand it over to questions, you know, I would like to say if you are an iPad user or iOS user and you are running Collector Classic, you know, you can install the new Collector. You can run them side by side. So if you just want to test it out and see how it looks before deploying it completely, I recommend running both. It's totally fine to run both softwares. If you have questions and want a demo or a little bit more information on how to set up Collector in the Trimble, you know, feel free to email myself, Scott, or Angie. So I appreciate your time. Just keep a lookout for the NEI YouTube channel where we always are adding videos and things. I have Collector and some other things in there, so feel free to check that out. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Eric. So we're going to wrap it up here with a few questions that have come in. The first question being, this would be a good question for you, Eric. Will the new Esri Collector for GIS work on the Trimble Nomad 5?
Okay, great question. So the new version of Collector out right now is not available on Android, but it will work with Collector Classic, or you could sign up for the Esri beta team to test out the new version.
All right, great. Another question for you, Eric. Can a PDF located on the device be attached in the attachment options when collecting a feature?
That is a good question. I would say probably, but I haven't tested it. So I will find out who submitted that question, and I'll when we do a follow-up email, I'll put that in there. So I'll look into that once we finish here. But I would think you should be able to, but I'm not 100% positive on that.
All right, great. Another question, what is the process of upgrading the R2 from sub-meter to sub-foot? And then I'll take that question. I've actually been involved with this. So, you know, the first step would be to, of course, purchase the update. We need the serial number from your R2 to get it processed in RN and get you the code from the store. And it's nothing that you have to send into us for us to do. You basically plug your R2 into your computer and use the Trimble Installation Manager to get the updates. So that process is not cumbersome. And then we'll do one more question. Scott, I think I'll let you answer this question. Will the new Nomad work on both Verizon and AT&T?
Yeah, so that's a valid question because I assume whoever asked that may have had exposure to one of our devices in the past that didn't work with Verizon, but the Nomad 5 is certified to work on major carriers, AT&T and Verizon included.
Perfect. Okay, and one last minute question that just came in. Can you explain what the IP rating for the Nomad actually means?
I can take that question as well. I've actually, just in the last few days, have done some reading on just what those IP ratings meant. So the IP stands for ingress protection. And so for the Nomad 5, it says that it's IP68, but it's really IP68. The first number has to do with like solid material, and 6 being the highest rating. So it'll keep out any dust particles. And on the 8 is a moisture rating that goes from 1 to 8. So it's also rated at the highest moisture ingress protection, which means that it's watertight under pressure. So it can be submerged for a significant period of time. So I wouldn't recommend anybody do that.
Hey,
right,
Andy, I'll just say, hey, I just tested that PDF thing and it is not available. When I click on that attachment, it's photo library, recorded video, record audio. So I'll put in a question to the Esri team to find out if they'll have support for that. But I don't see it when I clicked on that little attachment button. It doesn't show an option for me to browse outside of my photo library. So I'll do a little digging and we'll definitely respond back to that. But right now, I would say the answer for that is no, and I'll dig into it a little more.
All right, perfect. Well, we're about to wrap up here. Again, thank you all for attending today. We really appreciate you taking the time to jump on the call with us. I just want to let you know that we do have a current promo running until the end of the month, which can get you an R2 for $94.99 versus the MSRP of almost $12,000. You know, we've had some success selling the Nomad as the robust data collector with the R2, so you can still get both of these for, you know, less than the price of just that R2 standalone. So we will be sending out a follow-up email with some links to the different products. I'll have the link for that study that they did in Rwanda. It's a very interesting study. And as well as a link to that Nomad video if you wanted to watch it again or your audio was being a little wonky. So on that note, I'm going to close up the webinar. Again, thank you, everyone. Oh, one last side note. We will have an upcoming webinar. Just want to let everyone know coming up in April. Date is still TBD, but it's going to be focused on a software package that we have called eCognition, which is a photogrammetry software. So be looking for that invite. It's going to be a really interesting webinar, something a little bit different that we offer in our portfolio. So on that note, there's going to be one last survey question after I end the webinar. Your answers are very valuable to us, and look for that follow-up email. Thank you, and thank you, Scott and Eric. Great job.
Thanks, everybody.